Last night at London's O2 Arena, Katie Taylor retained her WBA and IBF belts. The third round stoppage of Kimberly Connor, Gareth A Davies was there ringside to look back on the fight. Gareth, in many ways this is the most impressive performance we've seen from Katie in her 10 fights so far.
I completely agree. It was the most complete performance, even though it was a short one, Richie. Steve Gray, the referee, was absolutely right to step in to stop Kimberly Connor taking any more punishment. The thing is, I tell you what Katie reminds me when she's letting rip on someone and hurting them. It reminds me of the hand speed of Amir Khan or Joe Calzaghe when they used to throw multiple punches when someone, kind of was trapped or hurt. It was absolutely perfect, the stoppage. I tell you what, Katie was up against a very tough woman last night as well. I spent time around Kimberly Connor last week. She's a mum of twins. She's a very serious lady. And also you could tell from her physique, because the first two rounds, she took everything that Katie could throw at her, and even caught her with a counter, brought a mouse up under Katie's right eye. But, I think Brian Peters is absolutely spot on. He spoke afterwards, and in fact, he's been grabbing me during the week and saying that Katie needs to be in super fights now, and I completely agree.
Getting back to the fight in and of itself, Connor presented Katie a couple of issues that I don't think she's necessarily had before. She was a long-rangey fighter. She was obviously taller than Katie. She was able to keep her distance in the early couple of rounds. And as you mentioned, brought up that swelling under Katie's right eye, which you could see bothered her, particularly upon its arrival on her face. It's something that she hasn't necessarily had to deal with. But again, there almost seemed to be like a shark-like quality to Katie last night, whereby if there was a sniff of blood, be it her own or somebody else's, that it seemed to spur her on even more.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I mean, when those punches early on were bouncing off, Connor like flies off a windscreen, and they really were to begin with, you see Katie caught with counters, and it really registers with her. You can see the cogs in her brain working, her athletic and psychological brain working, and she is affected by being hit herself. She's someone who's managed to go through her entire career without really having been kind of blasted out by anyone at all. I mean, amateur and pro. And I think, these are the kind of fights where she does learn things. But I find her more composed in the way she attacks now. She literally used to be a whirlwind, a raging bell that went into the ring every time she fought. But she is, I think, much more considered in the way she does things. I mean, I was impressed with how strong Connor was. You could see she's got very large legs, a long, lean torso, and she's clearly someone that could take punches. But that's Katie's brilliant ability. I mean, even Roy Jones Jr. used to land flurries of punches, punches and bunches on people. It does have an impression on referees to stop fights, and that's an advantage sometimes. Even when you haven't got someone massively hurt, the referee will stop the fight just because of the volume of punches.
There has been a sense... Sorry, go on ahead.
I was just going to say that I'm kind of in love with Katie Taylor. I have been for ages. I'm not in a kind of romantic way, but I love following her story. I love bumping into Bridget, her mother, who's always with her at the moment. There's a romance about Katie Taylor. I'll tell you what she needs, Richie.
Go on.
She needs a really strong ring sobriquet, a ring moniker. She needs to be marketed more. The two strains running in her life, boxing and biblical things, because obviously she's a God-fearing person. She needs marketing in a big way. I want to see her fight the preacher's daughter, Holly Holm. I want to see her fight people like Heather Hardy. Women who have got massive names in America through crossing over into mixed martial arts. Because I said this long ago, Katie should have turned pro after the London 2012 games, and she could have fought Minnie Mouse at Croke Park and sold out at 80,000 seats. She's 32. She's going to be a wasted talent unless they get her on big nights. She's very popular over here in the UK. I mean, those in Ireland listening to this today, and obviously your show goes all over the world because it's digital, she is loved here by the British fans, and she got a major reception last night. She should be headlining big shows herself, and she needs a fire lit under her in a marketing way. She's never going to come out and be a big trash talker or someone that kind of lambasts opponents, but she needs those crossover moments. And I think they need to start putting her in very, very big fights.
She's even starting to be a little bit more outgoing in terms of her post-fight interviews. I mean, I was watching her speaking to IFL last night, and she said that, you know, she wants the Serrano sisters and she'd take them both in the same night. I mean, even in a jocular kind of way, that's not stuff that we heard from Katie Taylor before. She seems to be able to play the game a little bit more. Even the presentation of her last night, from her ring gear, from her gown, etc. Like, everything seems to be a little bit more amped up than it has been in previous fights, and they seem to be dealing in the presentation side of things a little bit more and leaning towards it than they had done before.
No, I agree. But, you know, rather than lowering her chin and her voice every time she does a post-fight interview, you can't change someone's personality. She's a very, very sweet person. She's very intense, very sweet. I remember the day, by the way, where was I? It was in the Barclays Centre in Brooklyn. I was sitting talking to her ringside. I can't remember who was fighting now. It might have been James DeGale and Badu Jack. Yes, it was. And I was sitting chatting to Katie. We were on a diagonal to the ring, but in the kind of the VIP seats. Not the VIP seats, but the VIP seats. And who should sit down next to me on the other side of me but Floyd Mayweather and his son. First time I've ever seen Katie really blush, yeah? She goes red in the face and she goes, "Do you think you could get a picture of me with him?" So I go, "Yeah, of course I can, I know Floyd." So I lean over, I say to Floyd, "I don't know if you know Katie Taylor." He didn't know who she was. I said, "She is a massive star. Can she have a picture with you?" So he took a picture with her. I took a picture of her with him, and she was absolutely made up. I think I want to see her mixing in that kind of company. Her Instagram going crazy with things like that. Do you know what I mean? Just upping the ante in a way that there's a way of marketing her, because she's such a silent soul in a way outside the ring. She hides herself away and trains all the time. I just feel that there's not enough being done with her when she's not going in the ring as well. I don't know if she comes on your shows on Off the Ball, but, you know, someone's got to tease more out of her.
Whose job is that?
That's my belief, anyway.
Is that a Brian Peters job, or is that an Eddie Hearn job?
Sorry, I beg your pardon?
Is that an Eddie Hearn job, or is that a Brian Peters job to do that? To kind of coax more out of it?
I think it's an everyone job. I think it's, you know, I think it's something that everyone's got to do. That, you know,
to come through last night's fight, given everything that's gone on with her dad, and given the fact that there's another fight already lined up for Chicago, I mean, that's mentally, I was so taken with last night and how she performed, especially to put Connor away in 3 rounds. The mental aspect of preparing for last night's fight is probably the most difficult she's had to endure. To come through that,
I wouldn't disagree with that at all, Richie. All I'm trying to do, I'm trying to light a fire under the promotional stakes here. If Katie Taylor wants to be Katie Taylor, in terms of, you know, just doing her business in the ring, which is what she does, and doing her business in training, and not being a trash talker and not being anything like that, then that's really down to her. And people should be their own persons. They shouldn't act up in different ways if they don't or can't want to, you know, don't want to do it and can't do it.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I think she's obviously been through a lot recently with her father, Peter, obviously involved in that shooting at the Bray Boxing Club, and, you know, and obviously she's not working with him now, of course. So that's something different. Obviously, we've known that for a few years because she didn't work with him at the Rio Games. But, you know, I'm just trying to put my trumpet out there to say, you know, this is a person who is clearly an athletic and boxing star, and she's the one woman in the world, maybe outside, I would say, Claressa Shields, who men love watching box because she's so explosive in the way she fights. Yeah. And I don't mean that in a misogynistic way.
No, it's something that Eddie Hearn mentioned last night.
Men excited because she boxes so explosely. And that's what gets the general boxing fan interested.
It's definitely something that Eddie Hearn was quick to point out last night, that she is one of the best fighters to actually watch. Her technique is fantastic, her hand speed is amazing, and just the way she's able to move around the ring is something to behold and something you could teach to young kids. But in terms of the marketing aspect and the trying to get her to the next level, as you mentioned there, the Anthony Joshua model is one that I probably be more keen to look at, because you look at Anthony Joshua is an exceptionally athletic fighter. He has also is a religious guy. He is not a trash talker. But the rise we've seen of Joshua is to couple his athletic abilities with building the opponents next to him. I don't necessarily see that another fight with Cindy Serrano or her sister Amanda, or even a Delphine Persoon, as you know, rough a fighter she may have been, is going to take Katie to the next level. We need to build a name alongside her. We need to build her opponents to almost make it look like she is going to that next level.
No, that's right. That's why sometimes it's not about the best boxers, it's about the best personalities fighting each other. You know, I mean, I think it's kind of on a different slipstream, really. But, you know, look at Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. Look at the heat under those guys. What I do think, look, she wants to unify all the lightweight belts. I agree with the Joshua model, but what did he do? He turned pro after the 2012 games. He capitalised on a home games, on winning a gold medal in a home games. I swear blind, I've been saying for 5 years till she turned pro that she should have turned pro after the London 2012 games. Do you not agree with me? She'd have sold Croke Park out at the time.
I would agree that she would have been. She would have had a brighter start, let's say, to her professional career. Selling Croke Park out in terms of boxing is a very tough ask. I know at 2012, I suppose her public image and her public acceptance was just like on a par with nothing else we've seen really in the last while. But selling boxing in this country, Gareth, it's a tough ask. Andy Lee found that out. And Andy's obviously very close to the show here, but he obviously found that out with Thomond Park and his attempts to sell out Billy Joe Saunders' fight down in Thomond. I mean, it's a difficult sell, boxing generally in this country. Even going back to Bernard Dunn, I mean, Bernard Dunn, when he was a world champion, just about sold out the O2, as was. But repeated efforts to do that, I'm not sure it would have been. I'd say the professional flame would have burned very quickly and very brightly, but not as long perhaps as she's going to do now. I mean, I know she's 32 years of age, and she not necessarily is running out of time, but she has a finite time to work within. I think the time is probably right for her to take maybe the Clarissa Shields, maybe the Holly Holmes. Those kind of names, those kind of fights have got to be within not next, but within the next 12 months.
No, I think she'll unify the belts anyway. I mean, look, I mean, it would be, maybe she just needs that ignition moment. Maybe she gets knocked down and comes back and wins the fight after being knocked down and out of it. You know, maybe Clarissa Shields too big for me. By the way, Clarissa, she's a beast herself. She's a beast when she fights. She's too big at middleweight, I think, for Katie to fight. But I do think Heather Hardy, Holly Holm, these kind of guys. You know, since you mentioned the Anthony Joshua model, it's really, the cogs are turning in my head. And I think the key, perhaps, is that kind of building the fan base based on her, the good spirit of Katie Taylor.
We'll move on to the main event from last night, Gareth, because it was a hell of a main event. A lot of people may have expected Joseph Parker to cause Dillian Whyte real problems, and he did, particularly in the early rounds, and then again late on when he dropped Whyte. But for Whyte to get the knockdown of Parker, the first of his career in that ninth round last night, we've seen, and I was watching back this morning, the highlights of Dillian Whyte and Anthony Joshua's fight from a few years back, 2015, wasn't it? Whatever about Joshua and the progression that he's made in the last while, it's kind of like we've seen the basic raw materials are already there, and it was just a case of getting the fine touches to finish him off into the proper, top-ranking, high-level heavyweight. With Whyte, it's been this slow moulding of a really competitive, really, I don't know, there's something very raw about him still, but they've actually managed to kind of contain that a little bit and turn him into a really, really, really good heavyweight.
Absolutely right, and but also deep down, what won him the fight last night was desire, relentlessness, resilience, persistence, all those things. Massive heart. I did an interview with him for the Telegraph. I went to see him in his gym last Monday, and did an interview yesterday in the Telegraph. Big interview, kind of centre spread interview, in which he was telling about his early life and relating, street life, if you like, and how he'd once been shot in the leg and removed a bullet from his leg with pliers, when he'd been shot He hid himself away for a fortnight in a hotel, didn't want his mother to know that he'd been shot in the leg, and then sewed himself up when he'd been gashed by a knife. All these things, of course, when he was living a much different life as a wild tearaway, and, kind of involved with other, against and with other people who were living a kind of gang life, if you like. And that interview and that sit down for me was very telling. And also, having been around Dillian and known him for about 10 years, I've really noticed he's gone from Dylan the villain to the body snatcher, and that's what he was last night. He was dirty at times, he was rough, he was very close to the line in terms of getting a point deducted. Other referees, other than Ian John Lewis, might have deducted a point from him last night, but what he did, he roughed tough and he bundled Parker into an uncomfort zone, a discomfort zone, because for the first 5 rounds, I think after 7 I had it 5-2 to Parker. I scored it a draw last night, by the way.
Yeah.
That first knockdown, I counted as a clash of heads, which it was. I counted a left hook in the 9th as a knockdown for Dillian. But the attitude, the heart, the life he's come from, what I'm trying to get to is the life that Dillian has come from, the fact he's now having an impression on youngsters, that he's thrilled at being a role model, that it's transforming him, that it's redemption from Babylon, if you like, to use a kind of Jamaican lilt, for a guy who came to the UK at the age of 12 from Jamaica to live with his mum and his brother Dean, who hadn't barely been to school, who didn't always have a meal every day. Dillian is on a second life, Richie, and we saw that last night. He was hungrier than Parker in the end, because Parker, for the first 4 rounds, you thought, wow, look at the difference in class and levels here. This is a levels fight. Parker's fast to the punch, his footwork's better, everything about him looked like the consummate boxer compared to the brawler. But I had an inkling and I had a feeling, and I said on the broadcast, I was doing the broadcast for Talk Sport last night, but if Dillian soaks his punches up for 4 or 5 rounds, watch Dillian's confidence grow because he can take the punches, and watch Parker slowly be ground down by Dillian Whyte, and that's what he did, and that's what he'll want to do against Anthony Joshua. Do not write Dillian Whyte off from becoming a world champion, because you can't teach heart. You either have it or you don't, and we're seeing it unfold in front of us, Richie.
I was listening to his interview this morning with Sky. He was kind of relenting from wanting to call his next fight out, let's say, because the names of Wilder and Joshua are still out there. There are others as well who may come across his path before 2018 is through. But circling back to another fight with Joshua and perhaps Wilder are his kind of twin forks in the road. He's going to go one way or the other, or possibly both, even at this stage.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, he's put himself in pole position. This was a high-risk, high-reward fight for both men. Parker's got a big rebuilding job to do. Listen, he was both men's stock rose last night, but Dillian Whyte's more so. Joseph Parker all but finished Dillian in that 12th round. I mean, he took a knee, he did the smart thing. He took his time to get up and he held. It was an incredible dramatic finish. He's put himself in pole position. If Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder doesn't happen on April the 14th at Wembley Stadium, notwithstanding, of course, that Anthony Joshua wins against Alexander Povetkin on September the 22nd at the National Stadium here, the National Football Stadium, he's in pole position. If that fight doesn't happen, to step in and fight either man, frankly. There was the WBO and WBC international and silver belts on the line for a reason last night, that it keeps Eddie Hearn in a jockeying position in the chess game in the heavyweight division. He's now got a two-pronged attack on Deontay Wilder. It's fascinating. If not, we see Whyte against Joshua again. If not, we might even see Derek Chisora against Whyte again, because Derek Chisora pulled a rabbit, two big, huge right punches out of the hat in the 8th round. That was thrilling as well, by the way.
Yeah, I was just going to mention him against Takam. It was quite the contest, as I think you put it yourself, 2 men in a fight in the phone box.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was unbelievable. Derek Chisora is so hard. They've both got incredible chins, those two. Both got kind of one gear. Takam has a better work rate than Chisora, but he was smart last night, Chisora. He wasn't hurt by Takam's punches, and he slowly absorbed so much. As he said himself, I wanted to rope-a-dope him, and he did. He lay back on the ropes. He wasn't expending too much energy, took a lot of shots, but then in the end, Takam wondered whether he could keep going for 4 rounds. He was caught by that right hand, and then bang, another right hand, and it was all over. And I tell you what, Chisora was as popular as anyone last night with the crowd. It couldn't have gone better for British heavyweights and Eddie Hearn last night, frankly, because, you know, if Britain wasn't in charge of the heavyweight division before last night, after last night, they're all in the frame. Bellew, is he going to face Alexander Usyk in the UK soon? Probably at cruiserweight, and then Alexander Usyk maybe moves up to heavyweight if he wins. Derek Chisora now, Dillian Whyte now, Anthony Joshua, Joe Joyce coming through, Fraser Clark in the amateurs, Daniel Dubois under Frank Warren. It's brilliant. It's frankly brilliant. I tell you what, it's a privilege and a pleasure to be there ringside on these nights and be involved kind of, you know, front, centre and back myself in this, what is really a mini golden age for British and I would say Irish boxing right now.
You're a lucky man, Gareth. It was a fantastic night last night at the O2, not only because of the action we saw in the ring, but I suppose because of the many unanswered and open questions we get as a result of it as well, that we'll find out over the course of the next 3-4 months as those chess pieces move around.